So the graph for number 9 depends on A, H, and K. A is the green 3. It is not negative, so that means our curves are going to be in region 1 and region 3. H is the vertical asymptote. It'd be nice if it matched, right? Vertical asymptote is a negative 3, and the horizontal asymptote is a negative 3. So you could be wrong and still get it right on my example. So I want to be sure you note the relationships there. You know, who goes where. So here it comes. Cover up what I have. I don't want you to see yet. Okay, there is stuff. Let me get zoomed in as well. There we go. Oh, get zoomed in a little. Okay, the H. Remember, that's what the domain cannot be. That is the asymptote line. The domain cannot be negative 3. So that's the vertical. It's slipping on me. Then the K is the horizontal asymptote. That's what the range cannot be. And the only thing A helps us on, and I could even do that, like the A tells us, because it's a positive 3, it tells us it's region 1 and region 3 is where the curve is, okay? That's what the A helps us do. So those are the things you're going to be looking for in the next several questions. The A helps the curves form in which regions, and the H and the K help the vertical and horizontal asymptote. So in your homework, they have the scales for the number lines on the edge instead of right in the numbers. So that will help your eyes look for the right thing. I'm going to look for, here's the right one, a negative 3 and a negative 3, and a curve in 1 and 3. So you don't have to draw, this is just a repeat of what we drew here. It's just showing you how I knew that was the right one. So they could get the asymptotes wrong. They could get the curves in the wrong quadrants. So those are the two things you're going to differentiate on your assessment to see which graph belongs to what equation is where the asymptotes are, come from H and K, and what quadrants do the curves live in. So that's all the ways they can be wrong. Now it gets trickier if you have, in a couple of choices, you have the same asymptotes and the same curves. It's just one's curvier than the other one. We'll talk about that nitty-gritty when we go to look at the review, if that happens. On the homework, it doesn't. You're going to see very clearly which one is correct. If you understand why these lie in the first and the third, that's because A is positive, and why this asymptote's a negative 3 and a negative 3. So that's 9 through 12. So I'm going to do a couple more. Here's number 10's function. Go ahead and color this green because this is an A, this is 1 over B. Okay, maybe I should use a different color. I don't even know if I have a different color. That's that nice. What color should I make? I guess I could circle it with like a colored pencil. This makes the quadrants, right? And you can't even tell that's a colored pencil. Pickles. Oops. Nothing's broken. Much better. Oh well, that's okay. What's my point? I want you to know that determines where the quadrants are, or the regions. All right. Okay, there's all this. Okay, they talk about that. It's a horizontal stretch because I flipped the 0.5. That's where that came from. This is 1 over 0.5. If you wanted to put that in your calculator, that's where I got it. It's horizontal because it's down here in the X region space. And this number 10 has got 2's in it. So that's a pickle. So I color-coded where the 2's belong. Okay, we took care of the horizontal stretch. And the only thing you had to put in is your number. So you just flip your fraction or flip your decimal there and you got your right number. Here you have to pick up the reflection. That's because the negative is next to the X. So you're changing X. You know, your X's that were positive go to negative. That's why I drew that little sketch there. Help you remember you're flipping across the y-axis because the X values are changing. I have to recreate that thought in my mind every time. I do not have it memorized. I just think about it. What's being changed? It is the X values. And what does that look like on a graph? Well, if X's were positive, they'd flip over to be negative. If X's were negative, they'd flip over to be positive. They're flipping over or reflecting across the y-axis. So if you're thinking about it, you get, oh, that's why. I hope. That comes from the negative. That is the reason why that reflection story is there. No negative, no reflection. Therefore, the curves are going to be in regions 2 and 4. We'll get to that. Yeah, talk about these two things. That's part of my graph there. You can't see it. Sorry. Okay. H is 2, so the domain can't be 2. Remember, that 2 belongs in all 5 of those boxes. Somebody asked, they belong in all 5 of the boxes? And yes, they belong in all 5 of the boxes. Let me show you. Okay. In your software, see how you put the number here, you pick the axis there, and you have how many, I didn't do that one. How many units to the right and how many units up? Oh, pickles, I better add that in there. Add that in the story. Okay. And they're 2, obviously. I'm going to get that wrong. Okay. 2 units right. 2 units up because of the H and the K. Matchy, matchy, matchy. Let's see if I can get them all in there. K, K, K. H, H, H. So in your homework, that 2 goes in all the spaces. This is all H. Everybody's 2. And then, because my example isn't very creative, there'd be 2 in the range as well, because that's what the K number is. That's why it's good to color code so you can see where'd you get that 2, right? And thank you again. Jay said helps. Then the graph we pick Okay, these regions, I shouldn't call, they're not quadrants, you know, but I sure like the numbers to use. These regions flipped. It flipped over across the y-axis. So it went from 1 and 3 to 2 and 4. And I think in my example it was graph D. But that doesn't say what yours is, okay? That's just what mine was. That's supposed to be a D. You'd never guess it in a million years. Here we go. D, D, D. All right. So this guy is the H number. This guy's the K number. The other graphs were wrong. Either they had the wrong asymptotes or they had the wrong regions for the curves. So you got to check everything, guys. They're going to try to fool you. So don't make a mistake and lose credit because you didn't pay attention to the details of the graph. Okay, so this came from what we did in the homework, the same thing. We saw these parts. The only thing that didn't give us in the homework were this. We didn't have to write the domain and range, or in the notes, we didn't have to write domain and range yet. So I went on to number 13. Because they want you to write the equation from the graph. Yep, there we go. So that's the great, they have the 1 over b, and we haven't had one of those, on our homework. We did a. So I want you to see, what do you do when it's 1 over b? What's the shortcut? Okay. So this is 1 over b. This will be red. How do I know that's what it is from the graph, and I'll show you. Okay, what they did was they give you the graph. They give you this picture here. Okay, so just sketch it out. This is 4.5 over, 2 down. This is 3.5 over, 4 down. And then make your little, this is not in the homeworks. I made the dots so you can see clearly what, remember H is this number. And K is this number. So H here was 4. And K here is a -3. If you're sketching. Okay, so we got our H, we got our K, the B comes from, you do not have to flip it, guys. You just read it up to, so from a -4 to a -2 is up to, and from 3.5 to 4.5 is over 1. So that's right 1. I don't know why I made an exclamation point there. Okay. So to write that equation then, you just plug in your parts. So my g of x, drag and drop, 1 over 2 parenthesis x minus 4. And this, they're going to have a plus in the box. and it would be a -3. So that'll be a box. This is a box, and that's a box. So 2 came from the up 2 over 1. I went from point to point. You could go, if you went from this, you used this one, you would have went up 1 over a half, which is still, up 1 over a half is 2. 4. And 3. So they got the minus in the story. So if your H is, you just pick your H, whatever it is, you plop it in there, whether it's a positive or negative. K, they have a plus in the story, so you pick your K, plop it in. Don't be changing signs or anything. And they were in 1 and 3, so it's a positive B, up 2 over 1. So that's just like the homework you were given a graph, you had to write the equation, but here this is a drag and drop. They gave you 2 choices, 4, -4. So once you use the 4, you don't have to use the other one either. Here, they were all different numbers, 3 and -3, and I think this one was 2 or a half. So they're gonna mess with you. They're gonna play with your brain, but from the graph, it's what you see. Last one. I messed up on this guy. I made my horizontal yellow. I have to get really heavy with the orange, okay. And 14 is easier. These are whole numbers. You go at a -2, -1, and 0, -5 if you want to just make little tick marks. This does not have to be perfect in any way, shape, or form, as you can tell. But that is -2, -1, and that's 0, -5. That's where our curves go through. So when they don't have this marked, but you will see where do these approach. They'll have a -1 there, so that's your H. Where these two approach, that's a -3. That's your K. Right? That's where your curves won't touch. And I went from point to point. I went down 4 over 2. And that's how I got my A, but you could have gone from the point of intersection down 2 over 1. You still would have got A to be a -2. So then I plopped them in the picture. Number 14 was the A format, so we got this thing. So I didn't do 11 and 12, but I know you can do it. You can do it. You can find the graph. You can find the parts. Remember, the domain is what it can't be. Shifts right and down, left and down. You guys got the shifts, I hope, from all our notes. I have confidence. And some of you might be finished on it. That would be amazing. And I apologize for my ugly, thick orange line. Okay, I'll